What's up, Heat fans? Welcome into the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I'm Nick Roloff, presented by Prize Picks. There is a lot to discuss after the dust has settled from the NBA draft on Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll be talking a lot about Andrew Wiggins, LeBron James, Norman Powell, Duncan Robinson, and Buddy Hield on this edition of the Heat Report. We'll start with Andrew Wiggins because I think that is the first domino that needs to fall for the Miami Heat this offseason. Obviously, the biggest domino fell with Giannis, but post-Giannis, how do we build the roster? Wiggins is the key here. Why? Well, he has a $30.1 million player option for this upcoming season. Well, what's going to happen there? Is he going to opt in? Is he going to opt out? Well, if he opts out, Miami may look to extend him long-term. And if you do extend him long-term, you should be eyeing a contract that is either $25, $26 million or lower. If you do that, you will then create enough space to have the full non-taxpayer mid-level, which is $15 million, at your disposal when you enter free agency. Now, it is important to note that Wiggins has until June 29th at midnight Eastern time, because obviously you got free agency on the 30th. So you got up until Monday at midnight Eastern to make a decision here, which I would assume Miami will spend the next 2-3 days going through every single possible detail, speaking with Wiggins, speaking with his camp, and saying, hey, we really want you to be here. We want you to be with Giannis and Bam. Are you willing to take a little bit less for a multi-year deal? And how much less are you willing to take? It's certainly something we have to keep an eye on. Want to appreciate everybody who has subscribed to the channel. We passed 29K subs yesterday. It is a crazy thing that we've done. I can't believe that after 2.5, 3 years, we've passed 29K. I've never dreamed of this. Appreciate everyone who subscribed. If you haven't already, subscribe because we got a lot to talk about over the next 2 weeks as we build towards the season in the fall. All right, let's move over to LeBron James now. Is he coming home? Which is funny because you think about LeBron's career, right, real quick. He has won the most titles in his career in a Heat uniform, 2. Only one in Cleveland, one in LA. But he's actually spent the most time, obviously, in Cleveland, but consecutively in Los Angeles. So his 3 stops all have certain things in his career. Most time, Cleveland, most rings, Miami, longest consecutive tenure, LA. But Shams Charania saying this morning that the Lakers have been very active in every aspect of all of this. But my understanding is that there hasn't been an offer out to LeBron James yet as far as his free agency. And with him not being in contact with LA, I think that signals he might ultimately leave. And it is rumored that if he were to leave Los Angeles and play one more season, which likely will be his last, it would be either with Miami, Cleveland, or Golden State. And in that scenario, I feel like he would be back in Miami. His agent and best friend, Rich Paul, on the, I think, Game podcast, I forget what the actual name is, with Max Kellerman, on the Heat, said the word shooting is very misleading. In the playoffs, you need a guy that has the skill set of shooting with also the skill set of playmaking. You got to have guys who can put the ball on the floor. If you're them, you want a guy who's like $30 million in value that you can get for $18 million. Or maybe even a guy that's $40 million. Oh, gee, I wonder what $30 or $40 million guy he is referring to that you could get for the mid-level at $15 mil. That ain't slick, man. You got Barry Jackson, you got Ethan Skolnick, all saying that the Heat will explore adding LeBron to this roster. We're definitely heading down a pathway that could see LeBron back in Miami. The question is, should they? Do you want LeBron back in a Heat uniform? I'm going to explain my thoughts on the entire situation here in 1 second. Let me know, though, Y for yes and N for no. Before we get into that full explanation, I do want to tell you about our sponsor, which is Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made fun and easy. It is Flex Friday. When that goes live here in the mid-afternoon, take advantage. You can get a protected flex lineup. You might even get a payout boost. It is so fun to play Prize Picks on a daily basis. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can turn your ball knowledge into some serious cash. You can see every lineup I make on the social feeds feature. Go follow me right now, Rolly CS. You would see I already got this lineup in. It's a 3-pick power play. I'll be doing another flex play later on today. It's simple. Just take the best players. Erling Haaland, he's scoring today against France. Mbappe, he's scoring against Norway. It's going to be one heck of a matchup between two of the best players in the world. And I'm taking advantage of the YAML discounted shots for the Spain team. Just take the 3 best players playing today. It's that simple. Actually, I think Messi's playing too, so we're not including him, but 3 of the 4 best players playing today. Join me over on Prize Picks. Download the app. Use code HMA. Get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Use code HMA to get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. So we're talking about LeBron, obviously. I fired off this tweet yesterday, and I was met with, I would say, mixed reviews. Like, a lot of people in my replies and comments are saying you agree. And then there's a lot of people who are saying, no, like, what are we doing here? You can't pass up on the opportunity to bring in LeBron. I just feel as if it would actually benefit Miami to extend Andrew Wiggins, have the non-taxpayer mid-level, and use it on a guy like Quentin Grimes, Anthony Simons, and Colin Sexton. Well, why do I feel that way? Well, one, it's because we need legit shooting. And Rich Paul notes you need guys that can play make and put the ball in the deck as well as just be a shooter. Well, I think Simons and Colin Sexton can do that. LeBron has been a streaky three-point shooter in his career. He's obviously a much better shooter now than he was in his tenure with Miami 12, 13 years ago. He had a down year this year from 3, though, shooting only 32.8% on catch-and-shoot threes, shooting 31% from deep overall, and he's been up and down a little bit. Had a 2-year run where he looked like an absolute knockdown sniper. And if he had 3 straight seasons of this, I would feel fine bringing in LeBron. But the fact that he reverted back to a below-average three-point shooter, that gives me cause for concern. And I also have to ask, is he willing to defend consistently for 82-game season? Like, he's obviously not going to play in 82 games, but Miami, if they had LeBron, Giannis, Bam, like Giannis and Bam are an elite duo, but who's LeBron guarding? Is he guarding guards? Is he guarding top-of-the-line wings? I get a little concerned about that. Whereas with Wiggins, you trust him to guard some perimeter guys and do it at a high level with Giannis and Bam switching on the back end. So I just like Wiggins' fit a little bit more. Like, I'm telling you, I just feel like Miami would be better off in terms of their roster construction to extend Wiggins and sign athletic guards that can score, shoot, pass. I'm naming Colin Sexton. I'm naming Anthony Simons as my 2 guys that I really want the Heat to look at when free agency opens next Tuesday afternoon. And one more thing I'll bring up too. This is probably LeBron's last year in the league. Do you want Giannis's first season in Miami and first shot at contending in the last couple of years to be all about LeBron's final season? Or do you want it to be about Giannis potentially leading Miami to a title? I wouldn't be mad if they brought back LeBron. I just don't think it's the best thing for Miami. Wouldn't be mad. I just don't prefer it. I want that to be clear. All right, let's move over to what Jake Fischer said yesterday about the Miami Heat. They're making many moves, and they have a lot of things planned after getting Giannis. They're going to prioritize shooting. They could sign and trade Andrew Wiggins to get some shooters. I'm interested in that, not because obviously I want to do it, but interesting that they have explored a sign and trade with Wiggins. I hope we don't trade Wiggins, but if you do sign and trade Wiggins, well then, okay, I guess LeBron's probably playing in Miami. But the last part's interesting here. They are looking to get something back in a Norman Powell sign and trade. And with all of the buzz between Norman Powell and Detroit growing, you wonder, all right, is it going to be Duncan Robinson that they want back? We know that they've been connected to Duncan. Now, as we're filming this, the Pistons just traded some second-round picks to get Isaiah Joe. Does that impact Norman Powell's pursuit? Does that impact Duncan Robinson? I don't think it impacts the pursuit of Norman Powell. I do think that is a move Detroit made knowing that they may use Duncan Robinson in a sign and trade to get Norman Powell, and then they needed a bench shooter because they're losing Duncan. So I think the connection of the dots here tells you it's very likely that Duncan Robinson might be back in Miami due to a Norman Powell sign and trade. Obviously, he had that down 2023 season, but boy, oh boy, has he been phenomenal over the last 2 years. Great last season for Detroit. Amazing 2 years ago with Miami. We know he would be a fantastic addition to Bam and Giannis in the backcourt, running those dribble handoffs. He's a really good passer, smart player, and you'd be able to hide him defensively if you surround him with Davion Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins, Bam Adebayo, and Giannis. But I do want to tell Heat fans here, if you do sign and trade Norman for Duncan, that's effectively your non-taxpayer mid-level. Because you do that, you're bringing in $16 million, $15 million. So you wouldn't really have the flexibility to get Duncan Robinson in Miami, keep Andrew Wiggins, and sign a guy like Anthony Simons or Colin Sexton unless it's for the vet minimum, which I have a hard time believing they would actually take the vet min to be in Miami because, yeah, they could get a title, but they're worth way closer to $10, $15 million per year rather than $2-3 million a year. So Duncan Robinson would be your non-taxpayer mid-level. So, knowing that, would you sign and trade Norman Powell for Duncan Robinson if it ultimately took you out of the business of getting Anthony Simons or Colin Sexton? Type T for trade or type P for pass. I want to use this note here because Nikola Jovic's contract is killing us. Because you could hypothetically, folks, sign and trade Norman Powell for Duncan and use the non-taxpayer mid-level if you didn't have Nikola Jovic's contract, right? Because Jovic's making $16 million. Well, you take Jovic off the books at $16 million, well, that opens up the $15 million non-taxpayer mid-level. So is there a way to move Nikola Jovic? I think that's something Miami is exploring right now because if you're able to get rid of him and not take really any money back in a deal, well, you're able to have way more flexibility on the trade market as well as in free agency. And although I really like Duncan, I would bring him back, no question. What if you could sign and trade Norman Powell to Detroit for multiple second-round picks and maybe only take back like a small contract, like a Chaz Lanier or something like that, who makes $3 million, and you free up $14 million or $16 million because Norman Powell goes somewhere else. You bring in $3 million, but you're using those second-round picks you get from Detroit by getting Norman Powell and attaching it to Jovic. So you send Jovic, the second-round picks you got back from Detroit, to a team that just takes in Jovic's contract. You don't take any money back, and then there, boom, you have free agency money to spend, non-taxpayer mid-level, the biannual. You would have so much different flexibility if you were able to get rid of Nikola Jovic's contract. It would be something that I think Miami should pursue, and I think they probably are trying to do that as well. We'll round out the show with Buddy Hield because yesterday there was a deadline for Atlanta and Hield with his salary because 3 of it is fully guaranteed. Now, it would be fully guaranteed if they kept him on the roster past yesterday. They mutually agreed to push back the deadline date. There are many different outcomes here. They could ultimately just waive Buddy Hield, take on the $3 million, and save $6 million, or they can look to guarantee it all, keep him, or trade him. Now, there is a lot of buzz that there's a chance Buddy Hield lands in Miami. Barry Jackson said, keep an eye on Buddy Hield to Miami. Ethan Skolnick said, there's a decent chance Buddy Hield lands with the Miami Heat. Now, it would be on the vet min, and it would be in the scenario where the Hawks waive him, and then Hield joins Miami on the vet min, which would be, I think, a heck of a deal here. Buddy Hield has a lot of good things, a lot of bad things to him. Not a good defender, we know that. But he is a sniper, dude. He still has that ability to just absolutely go nuclear from 3. Sure, he shot 34.9% this year, but he shot 39.1% on catch and shoot threes, and he shot 44.3% on wide open threes. The issue is he just had to take a lot more pull-up threes off the dribble, shot 24.6% there, and 18% from three on contested opportunities. But when he's in rhythm off the catch and wide open, which he would have the ability to get a lot of those looks off the catch and off wide open looks, with Bam and Giannis attracting most of the defensive pressure and attention, he would be able to be effective in the Heat. And if it is for the vet min, like many people have suggested, then it's not going to hurt you because you're going to need to fill out the end of the roster with a couple vet min guys. I think Chris Middleton being in Miami is basically a foregone conclusion at this point. I would be stunned if he signs elsewhere. But him, Hield, on the vet min as like the 11th, 12th man in your rotation, with obviously Bobby Portis, with Ryan Conwell, with Pelle Larsson, with other guys you add for agency being the main guys in your rotation off the bench, I think that would be a home run. We'll have you covered. It was a long and packed video today. It feels like it's going to be like that every single day for the next 2 weeks as we look to fill out this Heat roster in and out of free agency. So you got to make sure you subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and turn your notifications on.